Introduction to the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment, the path to awakening that points directly to the mind. 1. Introduction. What is perfect enlightenment? Among the vast ocean of Mahayana Buddhist scriptures, one sutra stands out for its harmonious principles and straightforward methods of practice, earning deep reverence from various schools of Chinese Buddhism. This is the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment, Yuanjue Jing. Revered as the clear eye of the 12 divisions of the Buddhist canon. It was a classic widely discussed and studied by both doctrinal schools such as the Huayan, Xianshou, and Tiantai, and meditative schools like Zen. From the Tang and Song dynasties onwards, the two characters of its Chinese title, Yuanjue, are deeply significant. Yuan means perfect, complete, and lacking nothing. Ju means spiritually luminous, clear, and aware. Perfect enlightenment, Yuanjue, therefore, is the perfect, inherent enlightened nature, the principle realized by the Tathāgata, endowed with all virtues. In terms of its substance, it is called the one mind, Isan. In terms of its causal aspect, it is called the Tathāgatagarbha, thus come one's womb. In terms of its fruition, it is called perfect enlightenment. Ultimately, it is identical with concepts such as Suchness, Tathāgata, Buddha nature, Buddhadhatu, Dharma realm, Dharmadhatu, Nirvāṇa, and Bodhi. As stated in the preface to the brief commentary on the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment. Uniting all virtues and being greatly complete, shining alone and dispelling all collective darkness, it is called perfect enlightenment. In reality, it is all the one mind. Turning away from it makes one an ordinary being, following it makes one a sage. Being deluded about it leads to birth and death, awakening to it ends the cycle of rebirth. Ordinary beings are those who, being fully endowed with perfect enlightenment all day long, fail to realize it. Bodhisattvas are those who wish to realize perfect enlightenment but have not yet fully attained it. Tathāgatas are those who have fully realized perfect enlightenment and abide in it. Without perfect enlightenment, there would be no 6 realms of rebirth. Apart from perfect enlightenment, there would be no 3 vehicles. Without perfect enlightenment, there would be no Tathāgata. 2. Translation and version. The full title of the sutra is the Mahavaipulia Prabuddha Sutra Prasanartha Sutra, Sutra of the Great Expansive, Perfect Enlightenment, and Complete Meaning. It is also known as the Mahavaipulia Prabuddha Sutra or the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment and Complete Meaning. It is in one volume, translated into Chinese by the Kashmiri monk Buddhatri, meaning, Enlightenment Rescuer, during the Tang dynasty. It is recorded that Buddhatria translated this sutra at Bema, White Horse, Temple in Huayan. Regarding the exact year of translation, Master Taishu's research suggests it was likely between the Zhongguan and Kaiyuan eras of the Tang dynasty. 3. Structure of the sutra, the sequential inquiries of 12 Bodhisattvas. The structure of the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment is extremely clear. It consists of teachings given by the Buddha to 12 great Bodhisattvas. Manjusri, Samantabhadra, Universal Vision, Samantakākas, Vajragarbha, Maitreya, Pure Wisdom, Visuddhamati. Awesome Virtue and Freedom, Anantavirya, Distinguishing Sounds, Purifier of all karmic obstructions, Universal Enlightenment. Perfect Enlightenment, Prabuddha, and Worthy and Good Chief, Vajraraha. On the wondrous principle and contemplative practice of the Tathāgata's perfect enlightenment. The entire sutra is generally divided into 3 parts: Introduction, Main Discourse, and Propagation. Introduction describes the Buddha entering the samadhi of the vast, bright, and hidden treasury of spiritual penetration. In the Pure Land manifested from the equality, perfection, and non-duality of the pure, still, and extinct nature shared by all Buddhas and sentient beings. The great assembly of 100,000 great Bodhisattvas, led by 12 great bodhisattvas like Manjusri, also enters this samadhi, abiding in the assembly of the Tathāgata's equal dharma. Main discourse consists of 11 chapters, from the Manjusri chapter to the Prabuddha chapter. Each chapter first presents teachings in prose, longer lines, followed by verses, gathas, to reiterate the meaning. Propagation section. The chapter on the Bodhisattva Bhadraraha, which reveals the 5 names of this sutra and the meritorious benefits of faithfully hearing, receiving, and upholding it. 4. Core content, an outline of the 12 chapters. 1. Chapter of Bodhisattva Manjusri, the core purpose of the whole sutra. This chapter is the foundation of the Sūtra of Perfect Enlightenment. It explains that the Tathāgata's original, pure, causal ground practice is the standard for arousing the mind in Mahayana bodhisattvas. The Buddha reveals that all pure suchness, Bodhi, Nirvāṇa, and Paramathas flow forth from the great draw gate of the Supreme Dharma King, perfect enlightenment. All Tathāgatas, in their original causal ground practice, relied on perfectly illuminating the pure characteristics of enlightenment, forever cutting off ignorance, to accomplish the Buddha way. The Buddha exposes the root of sentient beings' delusion. All sentient beings, from beginning's time, have various kinds of inversion, like a lost person confusing the 4 directions. They mistakenly regard the 4 great elements as the characteristics of their own body, and the shadows of the 6 sense objects as the characteristics of their own mind. This means that sentient beings mistake the body, which is a temporary combination of the 4 great elements, earth, water, fire, wind, for their real body. They mistake the mental images of the 6 sense objects, forms, sounds, smells, tastes, tangible objects, and mental objects, for their real mind. Because of this, they falsely experience the cycle of birth and death, which is called ignorance. However, this ignorance does not have a real, substantial nature. It is like empty flowers in the sky, which vanish back into the void. If one can contemplate the pure characteristic of enlightenment as being like space, with a substance that is eternally unmoving, and realize that within the Tathāgatagarbha there is neither arising nor ceasing, this itself is the practice of the causal ground. 2. Chapter of Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, the essential practice of knowing illusion is to depart from it. This chapter explains how to eternally separate from all illusions and realize true enlightenment. The Buddha presents the famous essential practice principle: knowing illusion is to depart from it, no expedient means are necessary. Departing from illusion is enlightenment, there are also no gradual stages. These words point directly to the mind, emphasizing the sudden teaching approach. When you recognize that all phenomena are illusory, at that very moment you are already apart from them. When you depart from illusion, at that very moment you are enlightened. No additional expedient methods are needed, and there is no progressive sequence of stages. The various illusions of all sentient beings are all established based on the Tathāgata's wondrous mind of perfect enlightenment. Like empty flowers that arise from space, although the illusory flowers disappear, the nature of space remains undamaged. 3. Chapter of Bodhisattva Universal Vision, Samantakākas expedient means for gradual practice. For those of sharp faculties, the sudden enlightenment teaching can be directly entered. However, without expedient means, beginner practitioners hearing of this samadhi may become confused and oppressed. Therefore, the Buddha, within the realm of no expedient means, provisionally reveals a gradual practice path. Newly aspiring bodhisattvas and sentient beings of the final age, wishing to seek the Tathāgata's pure, perfect enlightened mind, should maintain right mindfulness and distance themselves from all illusions. First, relying on the Tathāgata's teaching of samatha, calm abiding. They uphold pure precepts, gather with spiritual companions in a suitable place, sit quietly in a quiet room, and contemplate the body and mind as entirely illusory. Practicing gradually in this way, everything becomes completely pure, equally unmoving, and pervading the entire Dharma realm. 4. Chapter of Bodhisattvagarbha, cutting through sentient beings' doubts and regrets. This chapter thoroughly investigates the doubt about sentient beings being originally enlightened. The Buddha explains that sentient beings are originally enlightened. The true suchness and pure enlightenment are inherently possessed by sentient beings, not sought from outside. He also points out that sentient beings, with their thinking minds, cannot fathom the Tathāgata's realm. Therefore, they should first cut off the root of beginningless, saṃsāra. 5. Chapter of Bodhisattva Maitreya, the root of rebirth and the 5 spiritual lineages. The Buddha reveals, craving and desire are the root of saṃsāra. From beginningless time, due to various kinds of affection and attachment, and greed for desire, all sentient beings experience rebirth. If one can abandon all desires and cut off hatred and love, they will accomplish the Buddha way. Sentient beings, based on their inherent craving and desire, activate ignorance, revealing distinctions among the 5 spiritual lineages, gotra. These are distinguished by the depth of 2 obstructions. Obstruction of principle, obstructs right views and understanding. This is attachment to dharmas, dharmagraha. Obstruction of phenomena, perpetuates birth and death. This is attachment to self, atmagraha. The 5 lineages include the lineage of ordinary beings, thigjana, the lineage of the 2 vehicles, Sravakas and Pratyabuddhitas, the Bodhisattva lineage, the indeterminate lineage, Anyatagatra, and the lineage of outsiders, Tirthika. 6. Chapter of Bodhisattva Pure Wisdom, Visadhamati 4 kinds of following the enlightened nature. The self-nature of perfect enlightenment is originally equal, with no distinction between ordinary beings and sages. However, due to the delusion and inversion of sentient beings, their illusions have not been eliminated. Within their false efforts, distinctions appear. First, the state of an ordinary person following the enlightened nature, mental weariness is forever cut off, and one attains purity in the Dharma realm. Yet, taking that purity itself as an obstruction, one is not free within perfect enlightenment. Second, the state of a bodhisattva who has not yet entered the grounds following the enlightened nature. All bodhisattvas' views are obstructions. Although they have cut off the obstruction of conceptual understanding, they still abide in the perception of enlightenment itself. Third, the state of a bodhisattva who has entered the grounds following the enlightened nature. Both having something to illuminate and having an illuminator are equally obstructions. Therefore, such bodhisattvas constantly illuminate without abiding. The illuminating and that which is illuminated are simultaneously still and extinct. Fourth, the state of a Tathāgata following the enlightened nature. All obstructions are themselves ultimate enlightenment. All thoughts, whether retained or forgotten, are no different from liberation. All phenomena, whether accomplished or destroyed, are all equally nirvāṇa. 7. Chapter of Bodhisattva Awesome Virtue and Freedom, Anantavirya 3 methods of practice. The Buddha reveals 3 expedient methods of practice, distinguished according to the spiritual faculties of sentient beings. First, samatha, calm abiding. Using the pure enlightened mind, take stillness as the practice. By clarifying all thoughts, one perceives the agitation of consciousness. Stillness wisdom arises, and the defiling dust of body and mind is forever eliminated. This expedient method, using stillness as practice, is called samatha. Second, samapati, contemplation. Technically referring to vipassana here, or samapati as attainment/absorption. Using the pure enlightened mind, perceive that the nature of mind, along with the sense faculties and objects, are all like illusions. Arise from within these very illusions to eliminate the illusory mind. transform the various illusions to enlighten illusory beings. By arousing this illusory contemplation, one can internally generate the light ease of great compassion. Third, dhyana, meditative concentration. Here meaning the union of calm and insight. Using the pure enlightened mind, neither grasp at illusions and transformations nor grasp at the characteristics of stillness. Thus, one can internally generate the light ease of still extinction. If these three methods are perfectly realized, one accomplishes perfect enlightenment. 8. Chapter of Bodhisattva Distinguishing Sounds, 25 Pure Samadhi Wheels. This chapter explains 25 pure methods of samadhi practice, including cultivating only one of the three methods, samatha, samapatti, or dhyana. Or cultivating two methods together, either sequentially or simultaneously, or cultivating all three methods together. 9. Chapter of Bodhisattva Purifier of all karmic obstructions, the obstruction of clinging to the four marks. The nature of enlightenment is originally pure. However, from beginningless time, sentient beings have falsely clung to the marks of self, person, sentient being, and lifespan. Mistaking these four inverted views for a real self-entity, they falsely give rise to hatred and love, create the pathways of karma, and are unable to enter the pure ocean of enlightenment. These four marks are the fundamental obstructions on the path. 10. Chapter of Bodhisattva Universal Enlightenment, eliminating four kinds of sickness. Those who seek perfect enlightenment should eliminate four kinds of sickness. Sickness of artificial action, artificially performing various practices while seeking perfect enlightenment. Sickness of letting be, simply letting things be as they are, while seeking perfect enlightenment. Sickness of cessation, trying to stop all thoughts, while seeking perfect enlightenment. Sickness of extinction, trying to extinguish all afflictions, while seeking perfect enlightenment. 11. Chapter of Bodhisattva Perfect Enlightenment, per Buddha 3 Methods of Retreat. This chapter explains 3 methods of retreat for those cultivating the great perfect enlightenment, long-term, medium-term, and short-term retreats. It also details the expedient methods for cultivating samatha, samapatti, dhyana, and other contemplative practices. 12. Chapter of Bodhisattva Worthy and Good Chief, Vajraraha, the Sutra's names and propagation. This chapter reveals the 5 names of this sutra. The Great Expansive Perfect Enlightenment Dra, the Sutra of Complete and Perfect Meaning, the Samadhi of the Secret King, the Tathāgata's Decisive Realm, and the distinctions of the self-nature of the Tathāgatagarbha. It also explains the meritorious benefits of faithfully hearing, receiving, and upholding this sutra. 5. Conclusion. Why read the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment? The Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment holds a lofty position in the history of Chinese Buddhist thought. It has always been regarded as an essential text for study and practice by various schools, including Tiantai, Huayan, and Zen. Its characteristics are: first, it integrates sudden and gradual approaches. With the sudden enlightenment of the wondrous mind of perfect enlightenment as its main theme, it also comprehensively includes gradual practice methods. Both those of sharp faculties and beginner practitioners can find a suitable path of cultivation within it. Second, its principles are perfectly harmonious. The entire sutra takes perfect enlightenment as its core, unifying the 3 studies of discipline, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, prajna. It integrates calm abiding and contemplation, samathavipassana, and encompasses the perfect teachings of the Dharma realm. Its analysis of truth, perfect enlightenment, mind and consciousness, mistaking the 4 elements and 6 objects, and existence, clinging to the 4 marks, demonstrates a very high level of philosophical discernment. Third, it provides guidance for actual practice. The 3 methods of practice, samatha, samapatti, and dhyana, along with the 25 pure samadhi wheels, offer concrete instructions for practical cultivation. Master Hans Han, in his direct explanation of the Sūtra of Perfect Enlightenment, praised this sutra, saying, "It takes the single Dharma as its name, the one true Dharma realm, the Tathāgatagarbha mind, as its substance. It takes perfectly illuminating the characteristic of enlightenment as its principle. It takes abandoning illusion and realizing truth as its function. It takes the one vehicle, perfect and sudden teaching as its doctrinal classification." In our current era, filled with information overload and restless minds, the wisdom taught in the Sūtra of Perfect Enlightenment, the principle of knowing illusion is to depart from it, can perhaps help us see clearly that the myriad disturbances of the external world originate from the discriminating attachments within our own minds. If we can observe our own minds truthfully and accurately, and face the ever-changing flow of worldly affairs, honor, disgrace, gain, and loss with the calm awareness of knowing illusion is to depart from it, we can find true peace and freedom amidst the complexity and diversity of all phenomena. As the sutra itself says, "At all times, do not arouse false thoughts. Yet also do not extinguish any false thoughts. Abiding in the state of deluded thinking, do not add any act of knowing. In the state of non-knowing, do not discriminate its true nature." This is both the essential instruction for practice and the wisdom for living.